I want to draw your attention to something very important, game-changing, that took place a few days ago. And in all this news about the floods and about other political issues, I don't know, Sakaja in Nairobi County, etc., etc., people missed it. Yet it is the most significant, in my opinion, political news in a very long time. Please allow me to rewind a little in history to tell you when it happened last and what the impact and the results were, so that you will more quickly agree with me that this was very significant, what happened a few days ago. In the year 1991, some ordinary Kenyans at a political rally started the chant, Moi must go. Moi must go. And because of the political environment in the country at the time, it quickly picked up momentum, and even politicians picked it up, like Moi Kibaki and others, so that we started hearing the chants at virtually every opposition meeting. Moi must go. Moi must go. And it picked momentum. Now, just a handful of months after that chant started, something happened in Kenya as a result that took everybody completely by surprise. Even the most positive and optimistic of analysts were shocked. The country suddenly returned back to multi-party democracy. In the previous months, people had died for requesting for multi-party. People had been detained without trial for attempting to start a new political party. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the country was back to multi-party democracy. What? Now, you know Moyo was a very smart political player, a giraffe in politics. The reason why Kenya returned to multi-party politics is that the options were limited. Either Moyo would have to go, or the country would have to come back to multi-party democracy. Actually, it was Moi political chess. In a way, Moi was responding to the chance by saying, okay, Moi has gone. Why? Because multi-party democracy has come back. Which means people will start another party, and yesterday, Moi will be out of power. And therefore, Kenyans cooled their heels, and Moi remained in power. Of course, the reality was very different. He had already done his sums, calculations very carefully, and actually Moi had bought himself another 10 years in power after those chants of Moi must go. Fast forward to the present. Presidential candidate Jimmi Wanjigi has come out and officially launched the chants this time round, which I'm sure will pick up momentum very fast, and in a minute I'll tell you why. The clarion call of Ruto must go. Now I can hear somebody wondering, what's wrong with this Chris Kumekucha? Who is Jimmi Wanjigi? Who is he? Well, it really doesn't matter. Because in the example I've given you of 1991, it is not major politicians who started those chants of Moi must go. No, it was ordinary Kenyans. And then consider the fact that Jimmi Wanjigi is not really an ordinary Kenyan. Multi-billionaire Wanjigi is above being called an ordinary Kenyan. And then add on to that the very careful, calculated, consistent steps of Jimmi Wanjigi since the year 2022. He has come out regularly and explained to us how actually we are not supposed to pay our loans. Most of the foreign debt we are paying for is not legal. Remember that? Actually, if you go back to Jimmi Wanjigi's very first utterances in late 2022, you will be forgiven for calling him a prophet. Because a lot of what he predicted has happened. Anyway, I'm not here to sell Jimmi Wanjigi, because after all, he's not clean. Oh no, he's not. And I may come back to that later. The point here is that Jimmi Wanjigi has started something. That mpende mspende is going to grow in leaps and bounds, by the way. In other words, just like everything he has done since 2022 has been perfectly timed, this call for Ruto must go has also been perfectly timed, because it is very instructive in that statement. He told us, and I quote, Ruto has reached a dead end. Ruto has reached a dead end. That is a very important statement. Extremely important. And actually, it is factual. And now maybe I need to explain why. If I was in UDA, benefiting from the government in power, I would now be shaking like a leaf in my boots. After what Jimmi Wanjigi said, let's go into that. Why? Number one, there is an ongoing doctors' strike. And the government has tried every trick in the book, plus other dirty tricks outside the book, to stop this strike. But it has not worked. The strike is still very much on. And now it is beginning to really bite. Now, how is this relevant? I'll tell you. And let me illustrate it this way. When I was a very young boy, and we went up country to the Iveti Hills, and in those days you had to be very creative as a kid to create your own toys. We would take old crates, wooden crates, put wheels on them to make a go-kart. And we would sit on these go-karts and roll down the hill. It was a lot of fun. But you see, our cousins in the rural area were more creative and ingenious than us kids from the town were. So what did we used to do? We would wait for them to do all the hard work of building this go-kart, and then they would start rolling it down the hill. And then we would time it before it picks up speed and jump onto the go-kart with the other kids and roll down the hill for the time of our lives. In plain language, others have done the hard work for resistance already. Azimio and the Maandamanos, although they were short-lived, followed by the doctor strike. And so this go-kart is already rolling down the hill, gathering speed. And so these people of Ruto must go. All they need to do is to jump on the go-kart. The momentum is already there. Nothing can stop that go-kart until it reaches the bottom of the hill. Bottom line, this is super perfect timing. That is really what it is. But there's still something else to help this cause. Oh yes. Unfortunately, UDA hawana bahati. That is the truth. The floods. Now let us be truthful. It is not Ruto or UDA who have caused the floods. That is the truth. It is of course true that the country should have been better prepared. Had we made use of the funds for mitigating the floods instead of pocketing them, things would have turned out much better. If we had moved people from those places where we know people are vulnerable to flooding, it would have saved lives, many lives, that is true. However, nothing Ruto would have done or UDA would have stopped the floods. That is the truth. However, that is not the perception of Kenyans. I was very shocked just today. The mood on the ground countrywide shocked me to my bones. Kenyans are blaming the floods and everything that has come with it on the Ruto regime. Squarely. And actually, This is human nature. You have a thief in the village. He is not even around. He has gone to visit his relatives in Nairobi. But something major is stolen. The whole village will blame that known thief. And you will not convince them that he is not involved. Ndio alikuwa amesafiri, but he organized for other people to do it. It must be him. He must be involved. It's human nature. And Kenyans right now are very angry. They are livid at Ruto and the UDA government. And therefore it should not surprise anybody. If somebody's wife packs up and leaves him, it should not surprise anybody if that person blames Ruto and UDA for his wife leaving him. It shouldn't surprise anybody. It's human nature. And the huge problem here for UDA and the government is that in politics, perception is much more important than the reality or the truth. And perception is that all these problems we have in Kenya, if Ruto was not in State House, we would not be having them. That is the perception in Kenya. And therefore the floods raging in the country currently are 100% Ruto and UDA. That is how Kenyans are thinking. Of course it's not factual, but it is the perception. And perception is king. Upende usipende. I will share with you what I heard a Kenyan saying today. Okay, verbatim. Hii maji haikujangi tu hivyo mara moja. Hii maji kwanza inaanza kupanda na kupanda polepole mahali pengine. Unaniambia serikali ikuona hii maji ikipanda? Wakuona ikipanda mapema ndio wajue kwamba itakuja ifurike iue watu. Hii serikali hapana. That is what I had a Kenyan saying verbatim. What he was saying is that the government's eyes can see everywhere, even where water is gathering, and therefore they should have been able to even predict where it was going to flood before it happened. This is what he was saying. You see, Kenyans have too much faith in what we call government machinery. Too much faith in government machinery. Government machinery should have seen the floods, and it should have done something in good time to save lives. Therefore the government is responsible for those who have passed on as a result of the floods. 100% so. Point number 3. Some people have neutralized our leaders in the opposition. They have been given big appointments out of the country. They have been told to tuliza boli, not to be so aggressive in their politics. It is even very possible that somebody like Raila has been told maximum of 1 major statement every 2 weeks. 1 major statement. And then for the rest of the time, whatever happens, even if the sky falls, you keep quiet. And this has put all of us in a very dangerous situation where there is a vacuum. And the wananchi are going to fill it in very quickly with chance of Ruto must go. Because to them, Ruto is the problem. Period. And therefore, if you want to solve that problem, how do you solve it? He must go. Very simple. I believe we are all now beginning to understand why the timing of a man called Jimmi Wanjigi cannot be accidental, or by the way, or a fluke, as we used to say in the old days. No, it is perfectly timed, not by accident, by intent. And therefore the prediction, and this is not even a prediction, the result of our calculation is simply this: the chance of Ruto must go are going to grow very fast over the next few weeks. You are very welcome to come back on this channel in about 6 weeks and ask me what happened, Chris, to what you said, that the chance will grow, the momentum of Ruto must go will grow. Chris, what happened? You're welcome in 6 weeks time to come back right here and challenge me. But in my opinion, Ruto will not go that easily, especially because of the very powerful forces supporting him. Yeah, indeed, indications are. Thanks very much, David, who brought this to my attention. One of our subscribers, one of my faithful followers for many, many years. Thank you, Bwana David. Especially because there are very clear signs pointing to the fact that Ruto is being groomed to be the next Museveni, to be the prefect of this area of Africa for some powerful forces. He's being groomed to take over that role from Yoweri Museveni. And so we can safely predict that initially calls of Ruto must go will be ignored, and then they'll be met with brutal force. That is what's going to happen. Now here's a super fascinating fact from history. In 1991, exactly the same thing happened. The calls of Moyo must go were initially ignored, and then they were met with brutal force. But guess what happened? It did not stop the momentum. In fact, those two actions speeded up the momentum of Moyo must go. And remember, this time round, Ruto is not Moyo. Ruto will not pull a rabbit out of the hat like Moyo did when he very suddenly restored multi-party democracy in the country and bought himself more time. Ruto is not like that. Ruto atakaa ngumu. But will that slow down the momentum? No. In fact, it will speed it up. Folks, brace yourselves. It's going to get ugly. Very, very ugly. Now, before I go, I believe we also need to understand, what does it mean when you say that somebody has reached their dead end? Well, simply put, you start off going in a certain direction, and then you encounter the wall, and so you decide to take another direction. You encounter another wall, you decide to take another direction until you have finished all the directions, and you come back to the first wall you encountered. You have reached your dead end. Has that happened to Ruto? Oh yes, it has. The president started with a policy of focusing on production. Yeah, good production, then prices will come down. He completely ruled out any government intervention in keeping prices low for the vulnerable in society. And then he had to change that, and government started intervening, and prices have started coming down. But it is too little too late. They're still very high according to most Kenyans, especially because they have less money in their pockets because of the increased taxation of this administration. The same thing happened with our exchange rates. Yeah, the government will not protect the Kenya shilling. The government's policy was that they were going to let the Kenya shilling find its own real value, yeah, which sounds to me very much like World Bank failed economics. Anyway, again, Ruto changed and the government intervened, and in my opinion and in the opinion of many experts, they overdid it. The US dollar fell like a stone, yeah, as far as its value against the Kenya shilling is concerned. But then now what is happening? It has started regaining its value. And because things were overdone earlier, you can be sure when the dollar gets back, it will overdo things as far as the way it's going to gain against our shilling is concerned. Going round in circles. And now Ruto and UDA have reached their dead end. Jimmi Wanjigi is absolutely 100% correct. That's factual. And what happens when somebody reaches their dead end? Well, it's just a matter of time. They can no longer control what is going to happen next. All they can do is to sit around and wait for their very predictable fate. Yeah, an end to that administration. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to. Let's wait and see. And at this point in time, it does not matter that Jimmi Wanjigi is not clean. You just have to start with the basic question. How did Jimmi Wanjigi make his billions? How? And when you answer that question, you will realize that he is very far from being clean. But where we are right now, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, trust me. Because Jimmi Wanjigi is not in UDA. Jimmi Wanjigi is not the president. He is on the other side, riding the wave that is coming to sweep. The way the floods have been sweeping everything in their path. Watch that wave of Ruto must go. And the way it's going to sweep things. The way it's going to be a danger to all of us. Those who support Ruto and those who don't. All of us are in grave danger. Now, I'm afraid this is the last call. This is your last opportunity for you to take advantage of my amazing special offer to get your hands on to a very sensitive special report on the General Ogolla Manenos. What most people are calling an assassination. Okay? This is your last chance to get hold of the very shocking details inside that special report. You can see details on your screens right now. For only Kenya shillings 4,999 or $37. Pop! This valuable, highly sensitive information can be in your inbox in the next few seconds. The deal will be over immediately I produce my next video. In about 24 hours or so. So please rush and take full advantage. The huge advantage here is that you'll also get 6 months free subscription to my weekly intelligence briefings and my latest WIB number 121 deals with something which most Kenyans are blind to, but something which is very clearly emerging. In fact, it is linked to the late General Ogolla Manenos. So make sure you don't miss it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.